we both came from cattle industries in different backgrounds, and how the commercial stud lines were like your traditional paths to go into.
Mhm.
But when you looked at the Wagyu section, you looked at it and said, there's something else here.
Mm.
There's something better, more fulfilling, more innovative, financially better that other people didn't see.
Mhm.
So take me back to that moment.
Well, I do remember when Wagyu first started coming into our operation, and I wasn't overly happy about it actually,
Mm,
because, as you say, we grow up with commercial cattle are viewed mainly on their phenotype and their structural integrity, and it's not so much based on the actual eating quality of the
mm,
actual animal, it's more what they look like,
yeah.
you know? And so when Wagyus first came onto the scene for us, I was not impressed. You know, they're not the prettiest of cattle.
They're not. They're really not.
No, and I suppose that's the thing. I did have a set of blinkers on,
Yeah.
and it took me quite a long time to take those blinkers off because I did come from a commercial background, and then my parents also then had a stud background. So growing up in that, that heavy duty intensiveness of a stud background and really breeding to have the most optimal looking cattle for sale for your clients, then to go and see these guys, I'm like, oh, no, I'm not impressed with this. And we had Wagyu for about 2 or 3 years before I actually got to taste it. And
Mm,
so I still wasn't overly convinced on the whole operation. I knew that they had really great fertility, and our fertility rates went through the roof with our commercial cattle. So we maintained an Angus base herd, and then we put the Wagyu, the full blood, high Tajma bulls over our Angus cows, and the calves coming through, they were making good money, and I
mm,
could see, obviously there's a financial gain to it, but there was a fertility aspect as well, and that also in turn compounded more finance for us as well.
mm.
So, but it wasn't until I think it was 2017, we went down to Albury for the Australian Wagyu Association, had a conference down there, and it was amazing. I remember after day one, the first session on day one, I walked out of there and it was like I had this epiphany. I remember standing at the bottom of these steps overlooking this garden, and there was 400 delegates that year, and there was just people milling around me, and obviously I
Mm.
was in the way because they're sort of pushing past me. And I just stood there for 10 minutes by myself, and it was like the entire world just dissolved.
Mm,
And I thought, this is it. This is what I was made for.
mm.
And so I just went into full research overdrive, and it turns out I was really, really lucky. I did 9 years of Japanese at school,
Oh
so
shit! Of course, right? Yeah, yeah. Of course, of
yeah.
course we did.
Yeah, so being distance ed, obviously. Um, so I started delving into it, and
Mhm,
I found it really interesting that my background with my parents, so my dad is actually a very astute cattleman,
mm,
stud master, and he changed the breed characteristics for the Charolais industry to be more cattleman orientated, like to be able to visually view an animal and see whether what that fat content is, or how they're going to perform in the paddock, and not only a structural integrity thing, but also see what they require, whether it's more muscling or less muscling, more fat coverage. And so I could sort of take those skills from what I'd learned from dad and apply them to Wagyu.
mm,
And I found it different because they are so different to look at. But what I discovered over the first few months of research that I did with Wagyu is that there was a very big polar opposites. You either had exceptionally high marbling
mhm,
or really high growth,
mhm.
and never the two shall meet. So
Of
that,
course, right?
back then, so which is, you have to have a balance of
Mhm,
both. So that was a good 10 years ago now, and, that I really got into it, and I started making contact with a lot of people, but my Japanese also became a little bit of a language barrier with some of the Australian producers because a lot of them don't know how to pronounce the sire numbers like
mm.
Kitateri Asadoi or Hiroshigataisu, or I had to speak to them with their sire names, and they say, "Oh, I think that's 001," or, and so we ended up with a bit of a language barrier for
Yeah.
a while, so I had to learn both the numbers and the names, and I did find that you had to create like a rotation. There was certain sires that were mainly used for maternal traits, and that had more growth and had more eye muscle, hot carcass weight sort of thing. But then those resulting females from those sires would have to be infused with a marbling sire.
Mm,
So it was a rotation as such, and to continually do that rotation, then gave you more predictability and consistency in those calves coming through. But you had to do it correctly,
mm,
and that took a long time to learn, and I was very fortunate with, a lot of the people that I met. As I've always been told, you find the right people,
Always.
And once you've got those people, you maintain those connections
Mhm.
and relationships with them, because once they've got your back, you've got theirs, and we work together.
Mhm.
And that's what I found with some of the mentors that I had. It was really interesting that three in particular I had at the time would all three of them give me different advice
Mm.
and say this was their pick, or this is what they would do with our operation, or someone would say, this is what you're saying is wrong, but I could sort of feel it within myself as I don't believe that. I don't think
Mm.
that's right. So, and with Wagyu too, obviously it does take a long time to get that data back because they're such a long term fed animal,
Yeah.
up to 400 days on feed, and but that's the beauty of them too, is that it's a low ration. They've got to be.
Mm.
It's like brisket barbecue. They're
Mm.
low and slow. They just get little bits. Oh, well, not little bits. They've got lots of food in front of them, but it's not hot food.
Yeah. What do you mean by hot food?
Like not so much grain based.
Okay.
So it's
So more
more
like grass?
more roughage. Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
yeah. Particularly in the feedlot.
Okay.
So so yeah. So that's a whole nother concept of it. So there's also the breeding, and then the feeding, and then the actual processing, and then the actual eating of them.
Mm.
There's a lot of education has to be done across every spectrum of every part of the spectrum of Wagyu production. And that's what I found so fascinating about it, is that it is a science
Mm.
essentially. And you have all of this amazing raw data from lifetime performance and carcass performance, and you have all of it sitting in front of you. And all you have to do is correlate it and work it out with quantitative analysis of your genetics. And you can pick and choose exactly what you want for your own operation, what metrics you want, or how you want to breed your animals.
Mm.
So that was sort of the start of getting into Wagyu, but I've been really, really lucky and fortunate to have found the right people. And yeah, I can't wait to see where it's going to go.
You talk about a feeling, that feeling that you had when you're talking with your mentors that what they were sharing with you wasn't right and you felt like there was a different way.
Yeah.
What was that feeling?
I feel like it's probably that bit of gumption, I suppose, that Dad instilled in me,
Mm.
is not to be swindled and not be told and be a sheep and this is what's got to happen and this is how it happens. And it was just I suppose I started questioning it. And the
Mm.
more I questioned it, the more I found in the research and the people I spoke to that there are other elements to this. And you can be a mentor and you can tell me this is what you believe, but you don't have to dictate it either.
Mm. Like it doesn't have to be your way and the only way.
Correct. Yeah.
Mm.
So
Would you put that down to like an intuitive feeling?
yeah, I would. I
Mm.
think well, that was actually one of the last things that Dr. Simon Coates actually was a mentor of mine for a long time, and unfortunately passed away a few years ago. And the last time I spoke to him, I rang him and said that there was a catalogue out and that I was very interested in a couple of these heifers, and I thought asked him what his thoughts were on
Mm.
them, and I said, a couple of other people have said to me, no, don't like her, I like this one, and Simon actually said, I'm not telling you anymore.
Mm.
He said, you don't need anyone's approval or accolades. Trust yourself. You've got this. And that was one of the last things he said to me. And I think that's what it all comes down to in the end, is that gut instinct. I mean, your head and your heart can tell you a lot of funny things, but the gut will always tell you the truth.
Yeah, it's always right, right?
Yeah.
Whether we choose to acknowledge it or not, we always know. And I feel like women, we already have an intuitive sense,
Mm,
and it comes from the gut. And it's, do we want to believe it or do we want to keep questioning it? And usually, every time we question it, we probably should have listened to the gut.
I agree. Yeah.
In an industry like, to me, the cattle industry, especially how we both grew up, is very traditional based.
Mhm.
So when you started to pivot or try and change the direction, how hard was that?
Well, I suppose more than anything, the ag industry is quite a male dominated industry.
Mm.
I have found it, particularly in the beginning, was quite difficult. So we'd be at a conference or at a sale or something, and people would come up and ask Noel or Gary,
Mm.
what are you doing with your operation? And both of them would say, we don't know. You got to talk to Jesse.
Let me call her in.
So essentially, they were fantastic in that regard to be my icebreakers.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So they would pass people off to me,
Yeah.
and then I would speak to them. But it was really interesting too to have that reaction from men and come
Yeah.
and talk to me as a woman about cattle.
Yeah.
Some people would completely ignore me and walk past after they'd said, go and talk to Jesse. Others would come and have a chat.
Mm.
Some clearly had a different agenda as well at times.
They're
But
like, "That's my in."
yeah.
Yeah.
But no, it was interesting the dynamic between a few of the different men in the
Mm,
industry that and they're the ones that I've bonded with in the end. Is if you're not going to give me the respect I deserve being a woman, I don't have time for you.
mm.
So
It's very interesting, and I think I don't wanna say most, but the agriculture sector especially, it's a very male-led, but it's the man and then the wife,
mhm,
and the wife will back the man
mm,
in different aspects, and um, like to your point, it's I will go and talk to the man about anything outside the house,
mhm,
anything inside the house, children, anything like that. I'll come and talk to the wife.
mm,
Um, and it's very interesting, even at like sales and stuff, you'd watch the dynamics of it happening. Very rarely is a wife jumping in to talk about the breed lines or the sale things or anything like that. So it would be very interesting to be the person who's receiving it,
mm.
to know what it's like.
It is. It is interesting, and there has been some altercations at times that I have argued, and they certainly don't like it when you argue back some of these people. But yeah, at the end of the day, I have got to a point now that there's not much value in that. I
Mm,
have no point in value in arguing with you about specific, whether it's EBVs or whatever it is. It
yeah.
doesn't. If you're not going to listen to what I have to say,
Hmm.
and you can take it on board or you can leave it,
Yep.
but just be respectful,
Yeah.
and that's not a difficult thing. And if you can't be respectful, well, then I'll talk to you later. Walk away.
Yeah, it's like I have the information for you. If you want to learn, cool. If you don't, then it's no skin off my back.
Exactly.
Mm.
Yeah. But in saying all of that too, at the end of the day, I think you could be in the ag industry, you could be in it your entire lifetime and only learn 2%.
Interesting.
It is a huge industry, and right down from nutritional value of your grass and understanding tree species
Mm.
to, cattle yard design and fencing and pest management, vaccinations. There's so much involved just in the production side of it, let alone then the feeding and then the processing and then the actual consumption.
I agree with you. And I love this topic because most of the people listening will have no idea.
Hmm.
They will look at the food that shows up, whether it's vegetable, fruit, meat, and be like, cool, that's how it got there. Not realizing the capacity in which it took for that chicken breast or that piece of steak
Mm.
to end up on the plate. So if you can look at the agriculture sector and break it down into different parts, what are like the main parts that people don't see?
From a consumer
Yeah.
standpoint, I would imagine the majority of it would be the breeding aspect,
Hmm.
and the actual, like, I mean, as we were saying before, there is that beautiful romantic notion of the outback and
Yeah.
cows grazing and they're having a lovely time. But there is also a lot of things that happen: droughts, floods, dingoes.
Yes.
There's a lot of things.
Kangaroos. Yeah.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
there is a lot of factors in
Hmm.
in producing beef, and I mean that's it. The production point is that that base level. There's a whole entire lifetime to learn in that.
Mm.
I'm fortunate. I'm third generation to have had that wealth of knowledge passed down to me. But there's a lot of people in the industry that haven't had that, and it
Mm.
takes a very long time to catch up to that and understand those nuances of, say, for instance, a couple of years ago, at mum and dad's, there was a heifer, first calf heifer. So she's a
Mm.
brand new baby. She decided to calve in the creek.
Mm.
So the calf was born in the water, and so obviously, I suppose people wouldn't understand that a cow won't take a calf if it doesn't smell like her
Yeah.
or the afterbirth. So, of course, this calf has landed in the water.
Yeah.
We've pulled it out
Hmm.
and brought it over to mum, and she would not take it.
Yeah.
That is
Just like don't want a bar.
no,
Mm.
nothing. So, coming from dad's expertise, we took that cow into the yards and we milked her,
Mm.
and obviously the colostrum, first colostrum of the milk, and poured that milk over that calf.
Mm.
And that calf was sucking within 2 minutes because she could smell it.
What's the colostrum for people listening?
So it's like the first batch of milk.
Hmm.
Yeah. So it's almost like lifeblood. If
Mm.
you don't have colostrum, like if that calf doesn't get colostrum in the first 2 or 3 hours, I believe,
Mm.
there's a very high chance that they won't survive.
Interesting.
Yeah. So
What led you when you talked about it earlier, the standing at like the top of the steps, I think it was, and
mm,
getting that sensation of this is what I'm meant to do.
mhm.
What was that like?
It still gives me goosebumps.
Does it?
Yeah, it still does. And it was not something I was expecting,
Yeah.
because I still had this, Charolais Angus cross love haze,
Mm,
that I really wasn't interested in Wagyu for a
mm,
long time. And it wasn't until that first session and I came out of there. I remember that session was about genomics
mm,
and starting to talk about, the intricate science of actually breeding beef. And I'm thinking at the time, like particularly in Wagyu, but I was thinking at the time, I was like, we could have been doing this for years in our Charolais or our Angus, and it's that intricacy that I loved, and I thought, and I have worked out since that I'm incredibly OCD and very, very ADD as well at times, but what I have found though is that I love that depth. I need depth, not just to be able to visually analyze something,
mhm,
analyze a cow grazing and be able to see whether that calf has had colostrum or not, or
mhm.
whether that cow's calved, or whether she's got brucellosis or something like that. There's a lot of those sides of things. It was more so as the analysis of the carcass data and the lifetime performance and seeing those numbers and how they change. It was almost like become like Rain Man. I can see all these figures going
Mm,
constantly, and then to be able to put them to an eight generation pedigree, knowing what I know now after nearly 10 years of studying all those pedigrees, to do an eight generation delve into those pedigrees and then put all of that analysis together. That's where I'd shine. That's the part that I absolutely love.
almost like you nerded out on the cattle industry,
I'm
like,
actually
hard.
I'm
Yeah.
actually known within the Wagyu industry as the Wagyu nerd.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Because you're so focused on the detail of it.
Mm.
Is that why you believe you did so well?
I think so. I mean, there's a lot of people that go into the world of Wagyu purely for financial
Mm,
gain, whereas it's never been about the financial gain for me. It's about the next best eating experience,
mhm.
and also ensuring that those cattle have the best experience of their life as well.
Yeah.
And that's through environmental stewardship and ensuring they've got the right genetics to carry on. Because when you breed Wagyu, you don't just breed for that calf; you breed for the next 3 generations.
Yes. Yeah.
So once that calf has hit the ground, there is already another 3 generations lined up after. So for her progeny and then her daughter's progeny are
Mm.
already planned before she even hits the ground.
That's so fascinating to me, and I think it's missed. Like, there's so much that is missed outside looking in to somebody who's never experienced the agriculture sector,
Mm,
or even to understand how something's produced or bred for it to come about.
mhm,
With Wagyu, though, it comes down to the, like you said, the taste of the meat.
mhm.
What makes Wagyu taste so good?
Mhm.
Like, what is it about Wagyu that everyone's just like, I need more?
Well, I actually think there's a little bit of a discourse within Wagyu at the moment,
Mm,
that there has been a little bit too much emphasis placed on marble score. And obviously, when you see that beautiful marbled steak, you can have all the lovely marbly intramuscular fat in the world, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to taste good. So there are different prefectural bloodlines within Wagyu that enhance flavour quality.
mhm,
And this is something that I'm really pushing for and with my consultancy at the moment, is to ensure that we move forward, not just for those terminal traits,
mm.
because as I say, you can have all the marbling and eye muscle. It doesn't mean it'll taste good. And no one is going to continually pay a premium for something that doesn't taste good.
No, it's all about taste.
Yes. So while it might look pretty,
Mm.
we don't eat it raw like that. Well, we do. Some of us
I was
Wagyu
gonna say
people do.
you can, right?
But the general consumer wouldn't.
Mm,
And that's what I find really interesting is you talk to a lot of people that have never had Wagyu, and then they, finally encourage them to go and have some. And they'll come back and say, it wasn't what I thought it was cracked up to be. And I said, well, I guarantee you haven't had it then,
mm,
because there is a lot of misinformation out there between the food service sector and butchers, retailers. They're using the exclusivity of the name,
mm,
and it's not always what it is.
mm,
But that's the great thing about Wagyu too, is there's so many different price points. But getting back to flavour, we can go to Scott De Bruin's down at Mayora. He's got the tasting room down there. It's Australia's best restaurant, 3 years running or something.
mm.
It's just insane. I was down there a couple of weeks ago, and $1,000 tomahawks that are dry aged in chocolate. Um,
Oh
they're
god.
amazing,
Yeah, I can
absolutely
imagine.
amazing. But he also feeds, Skittles and M&Ms and red wine to his cattle. to increase flavor profile as
Interesting.
well. So,
Hold
so
up, Skittles, M&Ms, and red wine?
red wine, it's amazing. You can go to their commodity the commodity bunks in their feedlot, and
Yeah.
there's just like Arnott's biscuits that have been milled, and there's snake lollies, and you can walk over and just pick all these lollies
Oh my
out.
god, that's crazy. I would never have guessed. Like,
Yeah.
that's something, like, you would never even cross your mind to think would be fed.
Yeah. And yeah, it's and that's the thing too with Wagyu is the way you feed Wagyu is completely different to any other bovine.
Mm,
Whereas Scott's found a different way to increase the flavor profile, and it's all marketable as well.
mm.
It's pretty cool, to go and see the cattle that have grown up on snakes.
Yeah, literally. It if anyone listening, snakes is a lolly in Australia. I don't think they're sold anywhere
Pythons?
else, so
No.
they're, a lolly, yeah, a lolly or candy as Americans will call it. Could I argue though that that is like feeding cattle the wrong thing?
No, I mean there could be an argument there.
Mm,
However, it's been done for such a long period of time now that there is no ramifications to it.
mm,
It's only for the betterment of them.
yeah.
And I mean to go and see those cattle, they are so happy. Like literally, we call it like the Wagyu Hotel.
Oh, I love
It
that.
is amazing. And they're looked after because they are such high value animals. There's some heifers or bulls that are there. Up to $200,000-300,000 animals.
Mm,
Even semen straws
yep.
alone can be up to $70,000 for one straw of semen.
Mm,
So I mean that's the thing. We can't afford not to treat them well
mm.
because they are such high value animals for breeding programs.
Where's the misconception that cattle aren't treated correctly?
I'm really not sure, and I suppose it's because we've been brought up in this producer standpoint and consider ourselves stewards for cattle
Mm,
and the environment. I don't know where how to bridge the gap. I don't know how it's got to this point that we do things wrong. I suppose there are corporations and
of
there's
course, right?
in every industry there's people that are doing the wrong thing,
Mm,
but they are the minority.
yeah.
I mean because it's not in anyone's best interest to treat any livestock
Mm,
in the wrong way. Not only for themselves, but for yourself as an owner or a breeder or, as a steward
mm.
essentially. So there's no point in it, no value in discrediting your animals.
How is that communicated to a wider audience? Because we can, like as we were talking about earlier, people who've been in the country can go to the city.
Mm,
Very rarely can city go to country.
mm.
So how is it that we communicate that to the city who have never been to experience it?
That's a great question.
Right? Because it's one of those things I don't think can ever, I don't know whether it can ever be fixed
Mm,
because it's always a standpoint of, at least on my experience and perspective of the world, it's there will always be a stance that people in the country treat the livestock terribly
mm,
or are terrible people in how the things are raised or anything like that for whatever reason, right?
mm,
Insert whatever the topic is. But I think there's such a misconception that if it was taught a different way,
mm,
maybe it would be understood more as to how my steak ended up on my plate,
mm,
not the only way that's seen. And yes, you are correct on the standpoint of there is, abattoirs or places that might mishandle or don't do things correctly,
mm,
but that's the minority.
mm. I agree. I think that's probably the next big step forward in the ag industry, and it's an ideology that I've been saying needs to be reversed for quite a while. It
Mm,
shouldn't be paddock to plate. It should not be that. It should be
no.
pallet to paddock.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, it's
We'll trademark that. Trademark that. No, that's really good.
because
Yeah.
I mean that's the thing. At the end of the day, the entire beef industry is about eating it.
Yeah.
It's about eating it. And if we as producers don't understand consumer satisfaction or your nuances or what you want,
Yeah.
for that satisfaction level, whether we can't adjust our breeding programs to ensure that for the
Mm,
consumer. So that's what I'd really, really like to bridge the gap between that consumer and the producer. Or for what I've been doing with this consultancy, it's the entire supply chain. It's from conception through to consumption.
mm,
And we have to understand the consumer's satisfactions to be able to reverse that and come back to that grassroots, back to that calf hitting the ground in the grass and being looked after. That calf has to be designed's not the right word, but reverse engineered as such to make sure that, after the next 3 years of its life and then feeding and processing and everything that it's got to go through, if it's the one that has to go through that,
Mm.
opposed to whether it might be seed stock and kept for breeding purposes. If that has to happen, that takes at least 3 years for one generation.
Mm.
So it is a very, very long-term program to change someone's breeding. Um, and understanding those consumer satisfactions, I believe that has to be boiled down to flavor profile, which in Wagyu, there are actually 800 different flavors of Wagyu on the Wagyu flavor wheel.
Would never have guessed.
800, yeah.
Why are they so different?
It's amazing. You can go and have, beautiful marble score 16.
Mm.
That's where we've got change. We have to change our metrics now because we've bypassed the Australian meat standards. We used to be only to marble score 9. Now, I've seen people up to marble score 19, which essentially there's more intramuscular fat than there is actually muscle fiber. But then in saying that intramuscular fat is actually completely different composition to any other bovine as well. It's actually more closely related to omega-3 than anything. There's actually studies in Japan that they're extracting intramuscular fat out of live animals in Japan to treat heart patients.
Wow.
So they are a completely. I'm still not convinced they are actually cattle. I think they might be something else entirely.
Something completely different. Yeah. That's really interesting, and I would not have ever known that that's something that it's possible. And it's interesting that that's something that's not widely taught.
And I know this, you talk to a lot of people and they say, oh, yuck, it's too much fat. It's too much fat for me, Wagyu sort of thing. But it's not. The actual composition of that fat is so healthy and so good for you. To the point that we're getting down into really scientific levels of it now when we start talking about SCD and tenderness and the melting point of the intramuscular fat. And that is determined by different prefectural bloodlines. So you can literally have a steak at 13 degrees melt.
Oh, wow.
So when you have really low melting point of your intramuscular fat or your marbling, the better the flavor profile.
And do people not understand that aspect of it? Like
Yes.
they just see a piece of steak that is meant to taste good.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Because they don't understand including self, the intricate levels of what took to create that piece of steak, but also what it means for it.
Yeah. And that's the same thing as I was saying before. It can still look fantastic, but it mightn't melt either. So, and then there's so many different levels of Wagyu as well. Of course, you've got your first cross, F1s we call them, Angus Wagyu cross or Santa cross or whatever breed of base herd we have, and then putting your Wagyu over the top of that. That's just an F1. Then there's F2s, F3s, purebreds, and then full bloods that are DNA traced back to Japan. So, and that's the other side of things too, is it's impossible to retrieve genetics from Japan. We only have a very, very limited gene pool of genetics that were exported out of there many years ago, decades ago now. I think there was 212 animals that ever left Japan, and that's what we've had to deal with. So our gene pool is really quite shallow.
Small considering, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you import a lot from the States and from Japan and other countries?
Well, we can't import from Japan.
Okay.
But there is a little bit that comes over from America. In my experience, the last 18 months, 2 years of traveling around America, it's been really interesting. The Wagyu world over there is completely different to Australia. And I suppose what happens in Australia is that we've probably bypassed that niche market now, and it is potentially one of the biggest breeds in the country.
Oh, really?
It is insane.
Interesting.
Yeah. So we are the biggest producers of Wagyu in the world, Australia.
I never would have guessed that. I would have for sure said it would have been either Japan or America.
Yeah. No, and that's the thing. What I've noticed in America, there are very few operations that actually do that fully vertically vertically integrated operation and to breed, feed, and to do retail with it. And I think that is probably the only way you can find from your consumers what you want is if you're doing fully vertically integrated. But essentially, there's very rarely I've been to an operation in America that they have more than 300 cows.
Interesting. Why do you think that is?
I believe probably more than anything is that there's actually not a premium for Wagyu in America. They're still UDSA prime. That's how they're graded.
Which is mind-blowing.
Yeah.
I'm just going to throw this out there, but American steak is trash. Like it's not that great. There's something about Australian meat that far supersedes American, and I feel like it's in the breeding process or it's something, but there is a clear, distinct taste difference
Mhm.
between the two.
Yeah.
And it has to come down to how it's either produced or from slaughterhouse to plate
Mhm.
that something changes, but it is not the same.
No, no,
Mm-mm.
I agree. I've had some amazing steak in America,
Mm,
but yeah, there is something different about Australia, and you certainly find that flavour when you come home.
No, definitely. It's like the single greatest thing. I eat so much steak when I get here, so I know that I've had my fair share for when I go back. Yeah. You're also a mum of two.
I am.
How do you manage it?
You have to. There's no
Excellent.
other option.
Said like a true woman from the country. You just deal with it.
Yeah. No, they're fantastic
Mhm.
kids. I mean, they've come from the land and moved into town and have just flourished and taken everything in their stride. And um, I'm so proud of them.
Mm,
And I can just see that same thing. They've come from the country and come to town,
mm.
and it has not hindered them in any regard. And they're just looking at all these amazing opportunities from sporting and music. And I was saying before, Haley with drama, and she's just so excited. They both are.
Yeah.
Sam made me laugh the other day. I was dropping him off at grammar, and he said, "I don't understand these kids who don't want to go to school. I can't wait to get to school." And I'm like, "Oh, you darling boy! I hope this keeps up."
You're like, yes. It's an interesting thing. What was it like? Like for yourself, obviously you were raised on the land. What was it like raising your kids on the land?
Oh, it's the best life experience you can
Mm,
have. To have that full menagerie of even just horses. Like when we camp draft is our sport of choice, which is obviously not in America, but it teaches such resilience.
mhm.
And I only saw a Facebook memory pop up the other day with Haley when I was teaching her e-kindy through distance ed because I had to teach the kids out there as well. And so
And to clarify, it was at School of the Air at the time for the kids, or would have it
yes,
been?
Charlevoix School of Distance
Yeah. So
Education. Yeah.
still the standard two-way, or did we upgrade to face on Zooms?
Yes, we finally had web sessions. So yeah,
Great.
yeah, yeah.
So the concept of School of the Air or SDE or anything like that is kids on the country or in the country are so far in between of anything of normalcy,
Mainstream
right?
school.
Yeah. Being able to access a school. So it's all done. Well, at our time was School of the Air, so a cool two-way. Now we've upgraded to Zooms. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. And yeah, it's almost like actually find it's very much like COVID. It
Mm.
made me laugh so much when everyone had to have their kids home through COVID. Nothing changed for us.
Not a country mum complained. She's
No,
like, same day.
exactly. We just keep going.
Yeah.
But no, that's and Distance Ed is a fantastic school as well. I mean, we started school at daylight,
Mm.
so that we could get it done by lunchtime, so we could
Yep.
get out and work of an afternoon.
Mm.
But yeah, it's a fantastic way to grow up. It is very daunting now, I think, in this day and age compared to probably when we went to boarding school from Distance Ed. Is that technology's fairly well up there now.
Mm.
There was no Facebook in my time. That's how old I am. But then I think that's probably one of the big things that's it's a bit daunting for me now is that these beautiful little naive country kids and they come down into the big city and they are so trusting of everyone, and that scares me.
Yeah.
But it also brings a little bit of, and you can see it in the teachers and the people they interact with in town, and they adore these little gorgeous country kids, and I think that it's just that they still have that such innocence about them.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but I think what you said is right. It's like this sweet innocent where we grew up around animals as our best friends or siblings, if you were lucky to have them,
Yeah.
that the concept to the outside world being a negative, it's just rose-colored glasses, everything's fine.
Yep.
But it's not that way.
But on the other side of that too is that they've got such an incredible sense of mortality as well.
Yeah.
So death is not an issue.
No, no. It's like we're very flipped in some ways. And it's very fascinating.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. But no, I'm very excited to see what they're going to achieve in their lives. I mean, they've got the world's their oyster.
Mm.
They've got everything at their feet, and they're flourishing. I love to see it.
What was the hardest point for you when you first started setting up Wagyu?
Um, I think probably the main thing was securing a market.
Mm.
Because what I noticed a lot, and we have seen it in the last 10 years, is there's ebbs and flows in Wagyu and
Mm.
marketability. When we first got into Wagyu, it was at an all-time high, I believe,
Yep.
at that time. Um, However, it does crash because so many people jump on the bandwagon at the same time. And then all of a sudden there's a oversupply of Wagyu. So if you can ride out the highs and the lows, ride out the lows, and then you get back into your highs. Well, that's when you can make your money again and
Mm.
keep that going forward. But the difficult side of Wagyu production, I suppose, more than anything, is maintaining that balance. Because if you just focus wholly and solely on one trait or two traits, whether it's marble score or eye muscle or something like that, you lose out on maternal aspects. So you have to continually maintain that balance of terminal and maternal. Otherwise, when it does drop and it falls over again, you've still got those cows to fall back on.
Mm.
To continually, to me, the entire beef industry, not just Wagyu, is all about the females. There is so much emphasis placed on sires,
Mm.
and understandably, because obviously they have more progeny per
Mhm.
year, because a cow can only give you a calf,
Calf. Yep.
maybe twins if we're lucky. Or she's a donor female where
Mm.
we can extract embryos and she may have 20 calves a year, but she'll have to prove herself before she's able to do that.
Mhm.
So it's very, very important to have that emphasis more so placed on females. And Australia and America, I've noticed, there's too much emphasis placed on the sires
Mm.
because that's easier to correlate and understand how the sires function because they have more progeny. But when you find a particular joining that works for as I call them unicorns, their growth and marbling,
Mm.
once you find that, hone in on it, find them, create them again. And I'm not big on a lot of artificial breeding because if you keep breeding the same thing, everyone's going to have the same thing.
Yeah, it, like, defeats the purpose. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we do have such a shallow gene pool, so we
Mm.
can't do that in
Mm.
my mind. There's a lot of aspects to artificial breeding that have merit, but there's a lot of people that are probably not being exclusive enough with their joinings.
Mm.
Um, but that's what I think I found is probably the hardest thing is maintaining that balance and not getting led down the garden path because there are always new up and coming super sires that are marketed amazing. They're amazingly marketed and everyone seems to say, right, I'm going to use this bull. And all of a sudden he's been put over just about every cow in the country. And
Everyone has him now.
everyone
Yeah.
has him now. And it's interesting to see that variation in his progeny too, because it's not all about him. It's about the girls that he's been put to.
Mm.
And when it doesn't work out, well, then you have to understand what females worked with him and what didn't work with him.
Mm.
And that's also another very intricate part of Wagyu production as well, is that if you've joined a particular bloodline or maternal bloodline to a terminal bloodline, and it turns out that it doesn't work, by the time you found out that it doesn't work, that cow has kept producing heifers that are in your program, and those heifers have had heifers. So they're essentially non-performers. They're not working within your operation, and by the time you find out that they're not good for eating quality,
Mm.
they've already planted the seed throughout your whole operation. So that's why it's incredibly important to understand your genetics
Mm.
while making breeding decisions and correlating all of that data together. Because if you don't do that, it is essentially you're flying blind. You don't know what you're going to have at the end of the day. And by the time you do get it, it could be completely wrong. And that is a very, very hard mistake to
Costly
rectify.
mistake.
Yeah.
Mm. As I'm thinking about it, I'm just thinking about the money to get to that point to be like, well, it didn't work.
Yeah,
And then we have
exactly.
to do it again.
And it's not all unicorns and rainbows.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's how you learn.
Mm.
That's what I've found really interesting. What we did with our breeding program is, we might have 300 cows in this paddock. So I would do a cross section of sires. So
Yep.
we'd put 10 bulls out in those 300 cows, and there'd be bulls for maternal traits and bulls for terminal traits.
And what are those two different traits?
So to enhance female production, so we'll
Yep.
enhance their fertility and their growth, and milk capacities, and then terminal obviously being more of your eating quality style
Mm.
with your eye muscle, hot carcass weight, um, and your marble score or marble fineness. So I would put a cross section of bulls out across those cows, and not all of those cows were the same either. I mean, there were some very large framed cows, very small, what I would call Tajma cows, that require growth. So those Tajma type cows would have probably higher eye muscle, higher intramuscular fat percentages, but they need to grow
Mm.
because you can have really high marbling, but a processor's not going to pay you for a pygmy.
Mm.
They need size to be able to make money off a carcass. So that's you have to maintain that balance, as I say. So when you have a cross section of females and a cross section of sires, you find out very, very quickly over at least 3 joinings. So that's 3 years. Over 3 joinings, what works and what doesn't. That's one paddock. And that's the thing. That was probably another thing that I found really interesting about the differentiation between America and Australia is that we have such vast numbers. Like we had up to 5,000 head at home.
Mm.
There's a gentleman I know in the Wagyu industry has 120,000 head of Wagyu. Whereas when I go to America, there's rarely I find anyone who's got more than 300.
It's
Um,
very interesting. I thought for sure Texas and at least Nashville would be two places that would be booming with it.
I think it will happen.
Mm.
Just the market has to change. You can't keep
That's so interesting.
you cannot keep competing against UDSA Prime. It has to have its own premium.
What do you think it is that they're attracted to in the UDS Prime?
Well, I suppose it's the marbling.
Mm.
But in saying that too, it is going to the industry in its entirety is going to boil down to flavor profile at some point.
Mm.
And if we're not focusing on flavor profile and consumer nuances, well, then there is a chance Wagyu will not fall over. It'll never go away,
Mm.
but the exclusivity of it will diminish. So I think that's for us as producers, is our next big hurdle to ensure the longevity of Wagyu as a breed is to ensure that we understand those consumer satisfactions based on flavor profile.
Mm.
Because we can have all this amazing carcass imagery and the MIJ cameras, and we can look into whether it's up to 50% intramuscular fat. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to taste good.
Mm.
So that's where we have to find now is how to understand what a consumer wants from a flavor profile perspective, and not just what it looks like. Because if it looks good, that's fine, but if it doesn't taste good, well, you're not going to keep coming back for it.
Do you see that happening sooner rather than later?
I had a discussion with a couple of gents about this down at Mayora a couple of weeks ago, and they said, really, it's probably 20 years away.
Seems far, but it's not. like-
But that's what I mean. If we're not starting to look at it now,
yeah.
that's 20 years is unacceptable.
Mm.
It's got to be done now because it takes such a long time.
I was going to say, when you factor into if anyone's listening, they're like, oh, 20 years, that's plenty of time. When you factor into the breeding lines, it's not that long.
No.
No.
So I think that's probably where it was interesting that they had that perspective, though. I found maybe that's just me being the mum. We got to get this done now, sort of thing.
The planners, yeah.
Yeah. but
To be fair, women are what keep things in order.
100%.
Like we have deadlines and you've got to hit them. If
Yeah.
you want something done, ask a busy mum.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a reason for it.
But no, I do believe that's our next step forward in the industry is making sure that we can get those flavor profiles out there. And it's going to be an incredibly difficult thing to do because there are so many different flavors of Wagyu. And how to really hone in on making sure that you keep producing that particular flavor, because everyone else's satisfaction levels are going to differentiate, because not everyone's taste buds are the same either.
Yeah. It's like trying to put something out there and hope that people like it at the best you can, but everyone's going to have the same opinion. Sorry, not everyone's going to have the same opinion as to what something's like. It's all based on their perspective.
Correct. Yeah.
If you zoom out from the cattle industry, from the brand, from everything, who are you at your core?
Who would I what, sorry? Oh, goodness.
Out of mum, out of everything.
In all honesty, right to my very core is Wagyu.
Mm.
That's, there's nothing I'm probably apart from my kids,
Yeah.
goodness.
We can separate the two if you guys are listening. Yeah.
There's nothing that has captivated me the
Mm.
way Wagyu has. And it was really interesting a few years ago. So obviously we'd been breeding for about 5 or 7 years at that point, and I went over to America in September 23 with the Wagyu Association for a tour, and I'd kind of become a little bit stagnant.
Mm.
And we were achieving what we wanted to achieve. We weren't going any further. We weren't going backwards. We were happy where we
Yeah.
were. Um, and it got to going on this tour, and we actually went to Canada first. And there's a gentleman over in Canada that I'd been following for years, a Japanese Ken Kurosawa, and he's quite literally like the seed stock producer for the world. That he has all the Japanese influence. So he's the only really Japanese influence producer outside of Japan. And I'd found Ken fascinating. He'd been to Australia a few times and spoke at the conferences, and he's very blunt. And anyway, so we went to his place first in Canada as Wagyu Sakai, and it was fascinating. The different bloodlines that he had. It was very, very essentially royalty.
Mm.
And I got to talk to Ken a couple of times through that trip, and he actually reached out to me a week afterwards and said that I can see that you're very passionate about bloodlines, because there is a very big discourse within this industry about bloodlines versus estimated breeding values.
Yeah.
Um, so he said, I'd like to mentor you, which I was absolutely gobsmacked, and I couldn't believe it. Anyway, so he sort of sparked this passion and interest again for me. And being under Ken's mentorship has been fascinating. It's I remember going over in February last year, and for the first 3 days, it felt like I was on a job interview.
Oh,
And
interesting.
so he's and having that Japanese culture as well.
Yeah.
He's a difficult gent at times to talk to, but I think that there's a little bit of being a woman aspect to it as well. But he reached out to me, so that's what I loved about it. And he actually gave me a folder in February last year that had all the old original breeding certificates of the foundation animals that were exported out of Japan that are all in Japanese.
Mm.
So this is my Bible now that I translate every night when I go to bed. I go through my Bible and keep reading all of these things that no one else in the industry has. And without Ken's mentorship and that, continually giving me homework
Mm.
and saying, if I'll ask him a question, what are your thoughts on Teratani? And he said, research the maternal lines, go back through, have a look, and then I'll go through it. And I think, oh my God, how did I not see this? So he's been such a huge influence on me in the last 18 months to 2 years, and has essentially reinvigorated me for this breed
Mm.
to the point that within, I think it was 6 months of meeting Ken, I was asked to speak at the Wagyu conference in Cairns last year in front of, I think it was 640 delegates.
It's amazing.
It's very daunting,
Huge. Yeah.
but it was amazing, and it put me. I suppose he sort of gave me a sense of confidence to put myself out there in the industry. He said that at the end of the day, he said you've got a different perspective, and I think that comes from that commercial and different breed upbringing that I've had. Have a different perspective on producing cattle.
Mm.
That be confident within yourself and get out there. And to have all of these wonderful people behind me that are supporting all of my thoughts and ideas, and to bounce ideas off each other at all times. Like, I mean, I'm not by no means saying that everything that I say is 100% correct. It's a continual learning phase that we have to go through for our entire life. But yes, if it wasn't for meeting Ken in September 23, I believe I would have probably still been doing everything from the kitchen bench at home. you know?
I'm a firm believer that we meet the right people at the right time, and if you're open and willing to accept or receive whatever's being presented to you at the time, you will learn something from it, especially interactions with people. And that timing is always something. If you could think back to your 10-year-old self, did you think that you'd be here today?
Certainly not in Wagyu.
Mm,
I believe I've always known I was destined for the beef industry.
mm,
Um, I've always loved it. I mean, from when my parents had the Charolais stud, that's what I lived and breathed. That the pedigrees and the carcass data from those animals as well. I think I was always destined to be here, but I never in a million years thought it would be in Wagyu.
mm,
But it's interesting how it's all fallen into place as well.
mm.
The 9 years of Japanese I did at school, to have that stud upbringing and then understand a commercial side, large operation scale, um, and then apply all of those essentially transferable skills into Wagyu it's been, and I'm not a fan of the word journey, but it is. It has been the most phenomenal journey,
Mm.
right from my 10-year-old self. Um, as we were saying before about the kids, like Haley's 11. Growing up with that lifestyle and that and myself, I suppose, more than anything, has never been about the money. It's
Mm.
not about the money. It's always about the betterment of the breed or ensuring that the cattle are the best. It's the same story when you're kids, you don't eat or drink until your horse is fed and put away. You
Yeah,
know.
it's like I always equated it to, and I think I learned this a lot from watching dad, especially. It's the everything else gets done and then you're fed.
Mm-hmm.
So if everything else is fed and upkept and correct, then you get to sit down and rest. And from watching like him, it was okay, is all the animals and everything taken care of? Now my wife and all my children are taken care of. Now I get to eat.
Yeah, and that might be midnight. But I think, yeah, as you say, from my 10-year-old self, I could say anything to her now is to trust yourself.
Mm,
I mean, it all happens for a reason.
yeah.
And obviously I've experienced some pretty hard times and some great times. But if I hadn't have gone through those hard times, I wouldn't be here and I wouldn't be the person I am today.
Mm.
So life experiences from 10-year-old until now, I wouldn't change it for the world.
What was hard about the hard times and what did it teach you?
That I had a level of gumption that I didn't know I had.
For anybody listening, could we explain what gumption means for them?
I suppose tenacity,
Okay, great. Yeah.
more than
Yeah.
anything, is
Resilience, if you will.
resilience.
Yeah.
Exactly, and I think there's a part of me that, from my upbringing, my dad is a very, very my way or the highway type man.
Every countryman.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I suppose I was very fortunate as well that after my tenure with dad, and I left home, that I did learn tactfulness and
Mm,
diplomacy as well. Because I mean, I've recognized and realized now that I still have the ability to stand up and not be dictated to, and
mm,
I will crucify you if you're going to behave that way towards me. Or I can be meek and mild and I'll listen and then I'll work it out from there. So I think that's the thing that I've found difficult. Well, when I've been in difficult situations, I suppose more than anything, is that I have the opportunity now to choose whether I want to be hardcore or
mm,
mellow.
mm.
And the hardcore side of me is mellowing as such, I suppose. I know it's there if I
Interesting.
need it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I don't think that there's an awful lot of value in it on a day-to-day basis. It's like almost like an ace card that you pull out if you really have to.
Yeah, it's like the sleeping of the beast almost.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with you. There's something about country women that it's like I can be as hard as you need,
Mm,
but I can also be as soft as you need if it's allowed.
mm.
And you're right, it's like an ace card that's
Yeah.
just kept back there, just in case we need it one time or another. And I think it's one of the most amazing things to see in women
Mm,
from the country, because it's a polar dance and it's phenomenal to watch.
mm.
Mm.
I find it really interesting too, at the end of the day, we are not physically capable of lifting big, heavy things like
Yeah.
our male counterparts do. But there's also this, and it's almost, I think, in some ways, almost like a competition
Mm,
as such, that we try and raise each other up.
mm,
Like, I mean, I'd challenge just about anyone. I think I could castrate a calf quicker than any man on the planet.
It's such a random thing to be like, "Watch me do this."
Yeah.
Any person who's from the country, female especially, would be like, "Yes."
Let me do the cutting.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
any man that's listening to this will be like, "What the fuck?" Like, it's something I've never been able to explain to people, living in Newport, because I know it's there,
Hmm.
and I also know, but you just can't explain that to someone. How do you bring your softer side about? If you're able to lower down the harder side, how do you bring your softer side in?
I think the kids bring it out in me the most.
Mm.
Um, I don't think if I didn't have kids, I think I would be pretty hard. But I suppose it all does boil down to that little bit of femininity,
Mm,
and that we can be hard. And know that we have that ability to make anything come to fruition if need be. But sometimes it's almost like I want to be looked after a bit too,
mm.
and to be that softer person. That's what I found recently. So many people say, "Oh, you take a hit so well." I'm sick of taking hits.
Yeah, it's the most like, it's people think it's a compliment. Like, you're so I hate the word strong. Like,
Yeah.
the word you're so strong, like, it pisses me off.
Yeah.
And obviously that's how I'm perceiving it, and it's not how it's being said to me. But I think there's far better words. But being told, I think, as a female that you can take a hit
Mm,
really well is not the thing you want to say.
mm,
No.
no. Um, and I think that's it. Where at the end of the day is that, yeah, I can be tough and I can ride a horse and I can, cut a calf or steer a bull. You know, I am still female at
Mm,
the end of the day. I still like getting dressed up and
mm.
going to gala dinners and, you know, interesting to come from that background of never wearing shoes and
Yeah.
but that's the exciting part of I suppose moving forward and seeing what the world has to offer is that you
Mm,
find out what things you like and what you don't, and the things that I find that I really really love soften me, and Wagyu is one of the things that does soften me.
mm.
um that it's almost a comfort, I suppose.
Mm. In what
um
way?
I think it's just purely the passion and how I find it so fascinating, and seeing all of these ideals in my head and seeing them actually line up on paper, and that sense of accomplishment, I suppose, is what quells me a little bit.
Mm,
I mean, even accomplishment being that I was wrong.
mm.
It doesn't always have to be that I was right, and it's a saying I often say to the kids is that I may not always be right, but I'm never wrong. Um, but I do accept and acknowledge that I can be wrong. I don't like accepting and acknowledging it, but that also is a softener as well,
Yeah.
to understand that. I love to be right, but it's good to be wrong sometimes too.
It's a very interesting take on that.
Mm.
It's like you sound like you were able to find something, knowing that it would be in the sector that you were going to be in one day, but it did something to you on a level that helped you create, I don't like the word purpose, but it helped you create purpose along the way. And it turned out to be the thing that fulfills you the most outside of your children.
Mhm. Yeah, it is exactly that. And as I say, like it was something that I never anticipated in my
Mm,
life. I mean, it was going to always be cattle,
mm,
but never ever thought Wagyu. And I suppose that's also an indicator as well of how you can be blindsided and keep those blinkers on. Like I was 100% do or die Charolais fan growing up. I was going to breed Charolais, French cattle for the rest of my life. I love them.
mm,
Went into Angus production and took me a long time to appreciate that breed.
mm,
Once I finally finally got across the line with that breed, then we went into Wagyu. So I think that adaptation again between different breeds has essentially it's built me to be the person today for the Wagyu industry, because the knowledge that I've been given from the Charolais and the Santa Gertrudis and the Angus and like my knowledge is not wholly and solely based on Wagyu. All of this knowledge is completely transferable against any breed.
Mm,
But my upbringing in those different breeds has essentially built me to be able to tackle Wagyu, understand it probably to a level that most don't in a lifetime. Um, and there's not too many people in the world who can do what I do.
mm,
But it's not so much about whether I can do it or not. It's the fact that I just love it. I love nothing more than analyzing a pedigree and
mm,
looking at data and ensuring that next 3 generations are going to be the best for the breed, the betterment of the breed, not
mm.
only for the Wagyu industry but for the beef breed in its entirety on a global scale. It's not just about Australia. I want to see beef being the prime protein all over the world.
What's holding it from getting there right now?
I think there's a few things, I suppose. I think corporate. There's a fair
Mm,
bit in corporate. I think also processing facilities and methods. I mean, when we do our own beef at home,
mm.
when we're killing at home, sort of thing, those carcasses are hung in the cold room for up to 10 days.
Yeah.
Whereas there's just simply not enough storage for
Mm.
when the likes of Grantham or processing facilities here in Queensland, they don't have the capacity to store tens of thousands of carcasses for more than 10 days.
No, it's like from am I correct in saying that it's pretty much kill to package?
Just about, like, I
Yeah.
mean, there's obviously a chiller time,
Yep.
like processed and then the carcass is hung and then chilled. So
Mhm.
it's because it has to be cold to break down those cuts.
Yep.
So I would say majority of the time it would be from slaughter to a cryovac steak, who'd be 2 days.
Mm.
And that to me is not enough time for an animal to develop its flavor as well, because that happens in that hanging process as well. Um, so I think there's a few things there because it is, I suppose, has become so commercialized, which it has to be based on the demand level. But that home, I don't know how you explain it. That the family owned and operated business at home that is essentially doing everything right from the paddock through to the butcher shop. That's where the passion and the integrity lies. It's not in the corporates that are, doing it through processing to make a buck.
Mm.
It's the family owned operations that have that passion and integrity, and that's where the beef industry has to be more leaning towards. It's not about the massive numbers, which are still necessary,
Yeah.
but there has to be an ideology shift there in a corporate sense.
I actually agree with you there. Like it's I think the corporate sense of the beef industry has always dictated what it looks like.
Mhm.
Um, that somehow the farmer's making, let's say, all the money compared to the actual corporate of the groceries or whatever else.
Mhm.
There has to be a shift in how it's viewed for people to understand, I think, the industry as a whole better,
Mhm.
for it to be accepted on a level where they understand that the farmer is actually the best thing for it
Yeah.
as opposed to the big corporation.
Yeah.
Mm.
100% agree. And there is a massive disconnect
Mm.
between those upper hierarchy corporate level executives. And I've spoken to quite a few of them in recent times, and it's fascinating to me that they're not. It's almost like they don't care what's happening on the ground.
Mm.
They understand that it is an integral part of the entire operation, but they themselves don't really want to know about it.
Yeah, it's like if I don't know about it, then I don't have to care about it.
Yeah.
If I don't see it, then it's not my problem.
Mm.
And do you think that's where the lack of disconnect comes? If I can't be on the ground and understand it, then I don't have to think about it. It's like the kid who goes into the supermarket and thinks it just appears there.
Mm.
Like steak just comes from the supermarket, not let me tell you the backstory of how that got there.
Yeah. No, I agree, and I think the bigger these corporations get, the more mass produced
Yeah.
it is. At the end of the day, we are having that disconnect, and it's going to continue to happen as well. Like the way even property prices are, inflation and interest rates, let alone just to keep a property to run cattle afloat, is incredibly difficult to do. Um, But the people that the family owned and owned operations, when they lose those properties, they're
Mm.
bought by corporate,
Yeah.
and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's
Yep.
going to end up being a monster that we can't handle. So it's so incredibly important to keep those family operations
Mm.
running.
I don't think people in the city, at least, even remotely understand that. Understand that when it's no longer a mum and pop that owns it, now
Mm.
we're at the beck and call of a corporation, and that's not what we want.
90% of them aren't cattlemen.
No.
They're only there for the bottom dollar.
Yep.
They do not care how they get to that bottom dollar as
Yep.
long as it happens.
Mm-hmm. And it's the process as well. Like I'll equate to vegans or people who are worried about the animal welfare
Mhm.
of how that animal gets from paddock to plate. The moment we put a big corporation in there, they don't care.
Mm.
They don't care. Um, so the idea of letting a corporation run how something gets from paddock to plate gives me the heebie-jeebies.
Yeah. But there's too many stringent, I suppose, metrics in place for family owned, operated, and corporations to do that from a
Mm,
food state safety standpoint. Like I mean, if we were to try and do that ourselves, we have to get into the market,
100%.
and that means creating contracts with Woolworths or Coles, which then again another corporation that
Mm,
will determine the price of the beast, and you either take it or you leave it.
mm-hmm.
That's the difficult part.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
Mm.
If I'm in the agriculture sector right now and I'm wanting to either change to a different breed line, change completely from the traditional path, what advice could you give me?
I think the first thing that you'd have to analyze and understand is your country.
Mm,
Obviously Australia is a very, very vast levels of country from, when we start talking about tree species and soil types and grass. For me, I suppose the phenotype is determined by the country that you own. So if you have, let's say, potentially, your brigalow, blah, softwood scrub type country that's very heavy black soils and beautiful nutritional value in that country, well then yes, I'd certainly be looking at the likes of your Angus and Wagyu, that side of things. However, I think if you are probably in sort of more deserty sort of country where you've got more sand, sandalwood sort of trees, box trees, that sort of thing, yeah, have a look at your Santa Gertrudis or your Brahmins or Drought Masters, that side of things.
mm,
I think it's your actual, the soil type and your country should determine what breed of cattle are actually being utilized on that country.
mm. I like it.
Mm.
If I'm a young woman sitting here and being like, I want to jump headfirst into the thing that I love, what advice would you give her?
Go. Dive, get into it. Do it yesterday.
Yep.
I mean, we don't have much time here.
Mm,
Don't waste your time. If you find something you're passionate about and that you love, take it with both hands and run with it. There's no point in waiting.
mm,
It's almost like the same thing with having genetics sitting in like an embryo in storage in frozen capacity. Why?
mm,
It's only sitting there becoming obsolete. Get it out there. There's no point keeping it frozen unless it's a ridiculously freakish thing that you want to leave as an investment for 50 years.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. I believe if and I've found that really interesting with people that I've employed over the years too. Young kids that come out that do a bit of governessing for me, or and I'd say to them, what do you want to do with your life? And they'll say, I don't know. Well, what do you love doing?
Mm,
What do you love? Oh, I don't really know. I mean, I think that's the thing at the end of the day. Once you find what you love and you're passionate about it, there is no other option. You have
mm,
to take that and you have to run with it and learn as much as you can and never stop learning. There is no end game.
mm.
It just continues.
I like it a lot. If you could leave one piece of advice for people listening who have no idea about the agriculture sector, what would it be?
Reach out.
Mm,
Take the initiative, take some time to find a producer or a landholder and try and learn a little bit about it because beef, not just beef, I suppose, the entire ag industry will become a lost art at some point.
mm,
It's becoming very, very scientific and procedural. That if you can find the right people, yet again,
mm,
you find somebody, go out and immerse yourself in it, because it is just the most incredible experience to, be in a paddock and the sun going down over seas of buffel grass and watching cattle grazing in the sunset.
Mm,
That alone in itself, we at times we take for granted.
mm,
But just that, just to go and sit and be still, like we were saying before, be still and see what it is to be back around nature,
mm,
and what the whole world really is, it revolves around, is that grassroots level,
mm.
that bottom foundation where it's just nothing but you, the dirt, the sun, the grass, cattle, horses, whatever it is. That's where we came from, and there's a reason why. Before technology and how fast paced the world has become, that was when we were really at our happiest.
I don't disagree.
Yeah.
I actually wholeheartedly agree with that.
Yeah.
Jesse, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on today. I have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation, and I hope those who are listening at least learn something or can expand their horizons to a different place that they've never been. How can people find you if they want to find you to consult?
For sure. So obviously I've just started my consultancy business. I've called it 4C Consultancy, so foresee the future.
Mm-hmm.
But you can find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. But 4C is very, very new, and I can't wait to see what we're going to do with it, because that to me at the end of the day is the entire beef industry. So I want to see the beef industry flourish
Mm-hmm.
and ensure that people have the right information given to them, for not only just a producer standpoint, but all the way through to the consumer. Bridge the gap. We have to bridge this gap between that grassroots level and that steak on a plate. It has
I
to be
agree.
done.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.